So, just a few things. The last time we were getting rid of the solder out of these little holes of the tab that we took out of this, and then we desoldered, and you can grind that hole, grind across that to get rid of the solder, and then you can pick out the solder that's left in there, or you can use a soldering gun. Again, I've had to modify the side contact because it had lost its tabs, so I bent it in, and that will work just fine. As I can show you what it looks like if you put a battery in there now. You just slide it in like that, and now you can see how it makes the connection nice on both sides, so the battery will work. It's not original, but it works just fine when you bend it like that, but it was broken anyways from the corrosion. So the chassis itself is pretty ready. And if you want to polish up some of these little things to make it look better, you can use a little sandpaper along the way. Or if you want, you can get a Dremel tool and get a little wire wheel with a Dremel tool and spin around in there, and that helps clean it up too. Another thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that the charging port is clean. Even though this is broken, the inside bit is still there. And what I like to do is just roll up sandpaper, and just enough to get it in there. Let's make it tighter. And then once you get it in that hole, you can rotate it around to take care of any inside. And then you can watch it go through. And you can see how it's cleaning on the underside of that little tab. Bring it back and forth, and you pretty much got a good connection. You can clean this up too if you want. That's just aesthetics. Make sure that this is clean, this connection here. We're going to have to put a new motor in it because the other motor was incredibly corroded. So, I mean, it can be fixed maybe, but that one's really bad. Okay, so let's get on to the lights. You can get replacement lights. They're 1.5 volt, grain of wheat. You can get them on Amazon. You can get 50 sets for, I think, $15. Not a bad deal. They're longer in length, so what you want to do is you want to take your older set and unwind them, and then see the length that they're supposed to be. You can see how it's all falling apart. But you can judge by, okay, how long do I want these to be? It's probably, if I can straighten these out without totally disintegrating them, they're so fragile. So I think it's probably about, I'll trim them back to there. Okay. So here's the lights. They are called grain of wheat, 1.5 volt. And let's see, you can get them on Amazon. I don't know if I mentioned that in the last little session. And you tie them together just like the other ones. Strip the ends, and I've has it temporarily bent around that contact. The other contact is still out of the car. It will go in this way into the chassis like that. But before we do, I have also pre-cut a shortcut, which I know that this whole switch thing here on this, where it rubs against that and then rubs against the motor here, is not going to work. It's just way too far gone. What we can do is do an instant on-off switch. And knowing this is the ground, I can take a little wire, a jumper wire, and this is actually just extra from the lights there that I cut off. And I'm going to attach it to the underside of the motor right there, and then run it around. Once the motor's installed, this will then attach to that same hole that the lights are, and the on-off switch touches on that little guy there and makes the connection, and then that wire will send it right around to the ground there, and the motor will come on and the lights will too. So I'm going to do that and then show you what it looks like. Okay, now that I've put the jumper wire, it's going to go from there around and then attach itself to the top of this. So let's put this piece in, which is going to go in under that, and I'm going to use needle nose pliers. Great needle nose pliers. You got to get some good ones, real long nose, fine tip. So this has got to go into, and there's a little hole in the opposite side. You can see that hole right there. So that little end has to go down into that hole, and then push it down. You can see how it's in there now. Looks good. And you can see where the connection's going to be when we switch this down, and it rests on that little tiny plate, makes the connection. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to put the motor in, and to do that I always like to hold it in a certain way. Push, let this slide down under. It's the reverse of when you take it out. Snap down. There's a little bit of a gap now. You see there? So again, take the pliers and I kind of lift up and turn down on them, and the connection should be good. So now this wire, the jumper wire, is going to go under the switch. Oops. And it's a little long, so what I'm going to do is trim it and then connect it to that along with that, and then solder it in place. That way that it'll all be together. And the same thing with this one up here, that'll be soldered too.